Today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite amp sims, the RVXX from Audio Assault. I've used this a ton and it's super thick. So the interface is pretty chill. You just have like the gain and then your standard sort of like EQ, as well as the presence, depth, and the master volume. You also have this like aggressive button as well as this wide button. And two channels. One is more gain than the other, pretty much. I don't find that this amp like truly like cleans up a ton. I have a clean example, but it's still kind of like it's a little bit aggressive still. You'll kind of hear what I mean. They also have a stomp section where they have some pedals. You're definitely gonna have your lovely noise gate, of course, boost and drive. So in the effects section they have a multi-band EQ, which this thing is fucking nice to have for sure, as well as delay and reverb, which are both nice as well. I probably would use my own, but you could just come up with some presets that include this right here, so that's nice. You can just kind of like save a little bit of space if you want to. The last section that we really need to talk about in the interface is the IR loader. The best part about this is the A-B split here, so you can load two different ones and blend them together. You have the high and the low pass as well, which is sick, so you can kind of carve the frequencies out a little bit too. And you can kind of boost the levels of the different IRs, which is cool too. So this plugin comes with some IRs already, which is kind of nice, but I honestly find that I use a lot of the Jens Bogren IRs just because they're so, like, they're just so good. Not that these are bad, but it's just like, I can get so, I get some, like, really fast results that way. So, basically, what I want to do is show you a couple examples of what this plugin sounds like with some riffs that I've composed in a couple different styles. So we've got like a metal one, a rock one, a clean one, and so on. So we'll kind of play those and see what they sound like here. And the signal chain is literally just the guitar. Like, it literally just looks like this. No graphic EQ or anything. And I used the Jens Bogren IR mixed with one of their IRs. So, kind of mixing some stuff around for that. The other guitar for this one uses this. I think this is the same one blended with a different Jens Bogren ones. So that's an example of what it sounds like metal context with like a 7-string guitar. Also, before we move on, I wanted to point out that I'm using the Ugertone drums, which is like a new version of their sampler. Pretty much a new version of like the KAVLT drums too, which I'll probably cover that at some point again, just because I talked about that in a previous episode. Alright, so here is the clean example. Alright, so that's kind of a different context than you would probably expect to hear from it, but again, it's kind of a strange idea too, but Kind of gives you an idea of what it could sound like if you wanted to go for like a completely like out of the box vibe for this. And actually, real quick before we move on, I can kind of show you what I was doing. Originally, I used a different amp sim, so I had to kind of rework it. But basically, I'm on the B channel, which is like the low gain channel. Gain all the way off, presence all the way off. Sort of backed everything down. I probably could do that even more, but I probably do that with regular EQ, like on the effects rack. Depth is sort of in the middle, and then also using their IR, one that is from the Rev pack here, and then using the graphic EQ again to sort of tame all those frequencies. And again, it's still like really like bright and stuff. But I do have basically everything on, so I could create all of the vibe within the plugin. So that was kind of the idea. So we're going to move on to another example that is more of like rock and roll. Alright, so here is our rock example I have pulled up here. This is a good way to demonstrate the flexibility of this plugin, I think, despite the fact that it is labeled as sort of like a metal amp sim. So. Alright, and I think that kind of helps to demonstrate the flexibility of the amp again, where it's doing something where you might not expect it to, or at least that it wasn't necessarily advertised as. So that's cool. I think that's got kind of a Dio, like rainbow, sort of something vibe going on. And my last example actually is within this file here. So I have to switch over my instances of this plugin real quick. I think we're actually looking good here. Okay. So here is sort of in like a doom metal sort of context. This is kind of where it shines, I feel like. This sort of like really chunky stuff, but it can do more for sure. All right. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty thick. Definitely a good way to get something like that out. Definitely good for like the Doom style for sure. I like that. Let's take a look at the guitar for that as well. Of course, we're using Parallax for the bass on that because Parallax is fire. Alright, so pretty drastic difference. Pretty much everything is the opposite. You have both buttons engaged, gain all the way up, and sort of like this is a little bit more of your standard metal configuration, I feel like. And then also using the Jens Bogren IRs just because there's fire, dude, honestly. Two different ones, of course. And actually, real quick, let's take a look at the effects section. Graphic EQ, yep, got a little bit of some boosting going on there. And then just, I pretty much always use the gate because otherwise it would sound pretty shitty. Alright, so one last thing we can do before we're done here is, let's see. Alright, so we can kind of play around with how this sounds by changing the IRs. So we can kind of go through and change the left and right guitar and see what this sounds like. Let's use their IRs. Let's just pick some random ones to start with. Just do two random ones. Two different ones, but let's do it Alright. So I like to think that this amp sim is pretty damn flexible considering its main purpose is just being super brutal. I definitely feel like this is my go-to for something that needs a lot of depth, and I don't think that you'll be disappointed with it for sure. Alright guys, thanks for checking out today's episode on the RVXX from Audio Assault. Probably my favorite amp sim that I have currently, and I think when I got it, it probably cost me like $15 because I got it on sale. So, yeah. Alright guys, catch you on the next one.